So I thought I'd grab a quick interview with my great friend and teammate Mike Bedding. Mike's fresh back from winning another Riverfest final. We were hoping to go on the river today, but the river's flooded. So I've come round to Mike's house just after we both finished work, and we thought we'd just do a quick chat. So first of all, Mike, put it there, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Congratulations again. You're the first angler to win Riverfest twice. You first won it back in 2017 on the Y, didn't you?
Yep.
And that was a phenomenal match, wasn't it? I remember you had two really great days that year and a right tight sort of tussle with Sam Merry. I think Sam was second, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. Second, like beating both days. 6 ounces the first day, 9 ounces the second day, off the next peg both days. And so I won it by 15 ounces to Sam, over 2 days.
So this year, you know, it's been a bit of a tough one in the lead up to the match. You know, the various qualifying matches we had, the venue hasn't fished great. I think that late cold spring didn't help things.
Definitely not.
And then obviously the river was low for ages, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And as so often, literally the weekend of the final, we've had a lot of rain and the river's come up. So it's made it both a challenging, but I think a really exciting final. So what I thought I'd do, Mike, is just let's talk about the 2 days. So day one, you were down on the Nelson field and you drew kind of the barbel peg, but it's like it's changed a bit now, hasn't it?
A little bit, yeah. They've tightened it up. So, well, I didn't believe I'd drawn it. I emptied the ticket and I said to 65. 65, it's like 65. Could it be? It's like, don't know. But went outside, spoke to Swinno. A couple have confirmed that is the peg. Don't listen to anybody else. That is the barbel peg. So it's like, okay, great. Still didn't believe him until I actually, knowing how prolific it's been, until I got down to the peg. Got down to the peg, saw it 65. I thought, wow, it is it. What a chance. Day one, low river. Yeah. What a chance. Knowing that there wasn't the big weights of small fish to be.
I mean, to be fair though, like on the qualifier the week before, I think there was only one barbel came off it. And I remember last year when you qualified, you actually qualified off the peg above it.
Two it would have been two above, and it was an hell of a punt down.
I remember
there.
So because they back then they didn't put the actual barbel peg in.
No.
But you did ever so well that day, so you're kind of familiar with the area.
Yeah.
As you say now, the pegs have been tightened up on previous finals, so really I think it's a good move actually. I don't know what you think.
So 66 is like, it's probably, I don't know, at a guess, some people tell me I'm wrong, but I'd say 15 yards further up. But it's made a hell of a difference because, the barbel lives sort of 15 yards off the old 66, if you like. So you've got a chuck on top of the next peg now to catch a fish. That's where they live. And the next peg chuck dead straight and they're more or less on them anyway.
And another sort of twist of fate really was that you were next to Chris Harrison, weren't you?
Yeah, it was,
and Chris is a great mate as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I've known Chris a long time.
So, I mean, it's kind of funny, really, and you had a right tussle with him.
I did,
so tell us about how the match went and what you caught and what you weighed.
Yeah, so I started off by going down to see Chris and just to tell him there will be people watching if he was chucking up. I get on really well with Chris, but it was time to be a bit serious. Yeah. And I spoke to him after, and he said, "You meant that, didn't you?" I said, 100%, and I did because it's,
well, that peg, the barbel can be quite tightly shouldered, can't they?
And I told him he got a chance of 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I said being on the peg, but him not being that familiar with it, I didn't sort of lie to him, but I knew he was in with more of a chance than 1 or 2 because of how they're a little bit closer to me. So we spoke well before the match and we had a laugh after, but during the match I think I just said, "Casters, Chris," and he went, "Yeah," and that was all we said.
You got your game face up. So tactics wise, I mean, I suppose you've drawn the barbel peg, you're just going to fish for barbel. Did you set anything else up or did you just go straight?
No, I knew. I knew straight away. I've set up 3 cadence, 13.5 foots. In the number 4, really great rods for it. Nothing else needed setting up. You need to get them out.
So you went really positive.
Yeah.
And in terms of the feeding, did you just feed through the feeder, or did you loose feed as well, some bait?
I started off on a hempen caster feeder, which I'd caught a couple of barbel on previously from higher up, chucking down.
So it looks like I think this was one of your feed, that type of a feeder.
Yeah, that type. Yeah, I
like
mean,
a big black cap, Camasan black
plenty
cap.
of lead.
Yeah,
Plenty of lead. I didn't want the feeder moving at all. So it sounded horrendous going in, but at the end of the day, there's so many rocks and snags that it needed loads of lead. Opened the holes up on the feeder a little bit. So dead simple. Just didn't want the feeder moving, and and that was it. And then just hold tight. I was having to chuck, as I say, right down the peg.
Yeah.
Because I was loose feeding in front of me. I've got to say in front of me, but dead in front of me, and the wind was obviously catching it.
Yeah.
But I had 2 barbel. The first one was about £6, maybe 7. The next one got weighed £10, 8, and I thought, and this was after an hour, and I thought, here we go, lift off.
Yeah.
Chris hadn't had anything, so I thought, well, I'm going to
was
give
that
it some.
what hook bait was that? Those first 2 fish?
The first 2 fish. So it was punched meat on the hook on an hempen caster feeder, with like a 4-foot tail, and then I had a few quick chucks on that, but I was loose feeding it, so I thought I'll chuck the lead. So I chucked the straight lead and a long tail, and I had one on the meat on that. Then Chris started catching. I was loose feeding a lot of hempen casters, like quite a lot out of the big catty, double pouching it, triple pouching it, every sort of few minutes, trying to catch them at the bottom of the peg. It came apparent. I think the hemp was definitely landing where I was fishing, but I think the casters might have just snuck far enough forward, because Chris then had 3 on the bounce.
Yeah.
So that put me in a bit of a position then to do it. So I straight away put the feeder back on.
Yeah.
Cut my loose feed down a little. Fed more hemp than casters, and then put 4 casters on the hook, and it
Did you have any problem with snags, or did you
Yeah,
lose any fish? Because it can be quite snaggy. There's obviously a feature there that holds the barbel, isn't there?
100%. Yeah, it's like a drop off, and you've got to find your way into there. So I was just in that, but literally, I fished a fairly tight clutch, but them barbel are anticipating diving, or doing whatever they do. But I'm sure I wasn't being cut. I got cut off twice, and I'm sure it wasn't rocks.
Yeah.
Because there was no sign of any sort of abrasion on the line. I'm sure it's probably some braid or something under there that the fish are kiting through, and it's literally just nips you off. There's none of this goes solid. It's 1 minute they're on, next minute you've been cut off. So there's nothing I could do about that. But
so how many barbel did you get in the end?
5.
5
I've
barbel.
hooked 7.
Yeah.
And got 5 out, which.
And what did you weigh on the first day?
£36.5.
£36.5. So that's just a great result. And I think, did Chris just pick you below you?
Just picked me, yeah. He's had 6, and just to rub it in, he's had a bream £6 or £7 as well, just to rub it in. So
I bet he enjoyed that, didn't he?
Well, he didn't. We weren't really talking at that. But at the end of the match, we were mates again at the end of the match. So
you're in a great position though after day 1, and then the river's come up, hasn't it? It's been raining, so all the talk was it's going to be a really wild, wet day on the Sunday, and the river's going to come up. So I guess you're sort of thinking, who knows? So you're now going to be drawing in A zone.
Yeah.
So you could be on the ferry field, you could be on the roadside.
Yeah.
And with the water coming in, I guess the talk was perhaps that the bream might feed.
Yeah, so we're actually having dinner. Well, I just stayed 10 minutes up the road with family. So we're having dinner, and you could hear the rain over everybody else. I was like, so I went out, I had a quick look, and it was like, it was biblical, it was horrendous. So straight away I'm thinking, crikey, this is, what's it going to do to the river? So good thing is, I've got somebody like Lee Wright on the end of the phone, straight on the phone to Lee Wright. Lee, what's going to happen? He said, it's already come up a foot. I said, it's only been raining an hour. He said, don't matter. It's literally...
Yeah. It was a deluge, wasn't it?
It literally, he said, it will come up so quick. He said, then it will steady up a bit and it will continue to rise. But for some reason, it comes up dead quick. And, he might not have said a foot. He said it's due to come up a foot before the match, and it's already come up 6 inches or something. But it was going to be a big river. So I was prepared for that, mentally prepared for that. And then I'm thinking, well, if bream feed, I got a chance of winning. but I've got to draw. Lee said, you know, you've got to draw roadside. Nelson Field, waste of time with water on it, and he was dead on.
Yeah.
Chance anywhere from.
And obviously
roadside.
Lee's a previous winner as well.
Lee, yeah.
And he was in the final.
Yeah. So he didn't have to give me too much info, but
you go back a long way.
We do, yeah. So it's so yeah, fair play to him. You know, I knew what to expect. He sent me like a flood, you know, like environment agency of the predicted level. So in my mind, I was happy. Just needed to get on that roadside,
which you did.
And I did, yeah. I did.
What peg did you draw?
I drew A30 on the day.
And that's sort of like, how many pegs down from the outfall?
So that would be, so the outfall would be, on the day it was 1 peg below.
Yeah, but probably in reality 4 pegs.
It's probably about 3, I think.
3 pegs, yeah.
Below.
So you're above the wires.
Above the wires by a couple of pegs.
Yeah.
So didn't really know what to expect.
I mean, in that area, in recent years, in the final and in the qualifying matches, around the wires, there has been some bream caught.
Yeah, 100%.
But you were perhaps thinking you were maybe a bit too high up.
Yeah, a bit too high up, but I still thought in my mind that I probably can't win this. I'm not going to surrender third place, as silly as it sounds.
Yeah.
I got £10 cushion to Alan.
Yeah.
So the thinking was catch some, you know, it's one of the probably a few pegs you could caught some small fish off. Yeah. Because it's, you know, they live on a couple of pegs above, but they probably get pushed onto mine. And the plan was to try and catch them early before the river got too much of a mess.
Yeah, and you're never sure. I mean, the bream might not have fed.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The thing.
Yeah,
so it's always easy to say afterwards, isn't it?
And going on previous days, I was 18 and £20 behind second and third.
Yeah.
The results the previous day were there was one £20, and that was £20 a few ounces. I think then there was a 17. Apart from that, there was like a £10.
Yeah.
And then, so realistically, I wasn't going to win going into day 2, unless it rained.
Sure.
But it rained. And then.
Well, it's brilliant. So tell us about how you approached it. So you'd got like a small fish option, if you like, to top up
so I wanted to
if the bream didn't feed, or you know, however it was going to fish. So how did you feed for the bream?
It was a bit crude, really. So I got my mix from the day before that I didn't need to use because I'd drawn a barbel peg, which was my roach mix. So what I did was I over-wetted that, and I added, you know, probably 30% fish meal to that. Just to feed. So what I've done is I've put, you know, I thought there might be a chance of if I couldn't catch a bream, there might be a chance of a barbel, you know, silly as it sounds, just from the nature of the peg.
Yeah.
So what I've done is I've put in the mix. I've took enough of the mix out to make 6 big balls. I mean, big enough just to throw, just hold with one hand. They weren't going to go far, put it that way, but they were, you know. You couldn't have thrown them much further than I was fishing.
Did you bowl it into the peg? Or?
I couldn't have lifted it above my head. But I put 6 in, like this, you know, and I've only put them in, like, probably about, I don't know, 11 o'clock, not far down, because I obviously didn't want to, it was pulling like hell anyway, but I wanted to fish it, I wanted to feed them slightly down. So what I've done is I've plumbed up beforehand, on a long whip, found the bottom of the river, knew where I wanted to feed, knew where the main flow was coming off meeting the outfall water and all the debris, and I chose to fish inside that, which is...
Yeah, I think a lot of people might have been tempted to fish a bit further out.
Yeah, knowing where
because normally you need to chuck further, but I guess with the change in flow, the fish have dropped closer in, and you are still getting the influence of that outflow, aren't you?
100%. So the outflow water was almost... Although it was raging, it was almost calming the main pulling flow. It was sort of, well, it was almost like a barrier from the main flow. So although it was absolutely, it was boiling as you'd expect on a rising river, I knew my best chance was just to get into that riverbed by a few metres and feed and fish where I could chuck regularly because of the debris and the weed, and I could do everything dead simple. But I got the most water,
And how quickly did you catch your first bream?
Once I couldn't catch small fish. I mean, if I could have caught small fish, I set up a little maggot feeder to fish, like a pole feeder type thing, to try and catch small fish, and I kept catching loads of like thick, heavy weed that was obviously just rolling down the bottom, and that made life really difficult. So my mind was made up after about 25 minutes, half an hour to chuck the feeder. Probably I had it probably 15 minutes, the first one, after chucking. I probably chucked about 4 times in that. I had to tinker with my rig a little bit because of the debris and the weed, and it was masking the hook. And but that was my only option, so I had to tweak it and make it work, basically.
Yeah.
So I've dumped these 6 balls in, and I've, they've had 2 small tins of corn in, 6 balls, some 6mm meat, a little bit, a few 6mm halibut. So I've really, I've had a go.
You've attacked it, which you had to. And then, so you caught your first bream?
Probably 35, 40 minutes into the match.
I think that must have been a nice feeling to get that.
Amazing feeling. So my immediate feeling was, okay, that bream's like £4. That puts me on £40. That pushes me £4 in front, another £4 in front of fourth place or whatever. I thought, I wonder if I get another one. And then probably 10 minutes later, another 2 or 3 chucks. I've had another one. And then I'm thinking, instead of thinking that puts me £10 or £8 in front of, I'm thinking that gets me, that's half the deficit now to second and first.
Yeah.
Then I'm thinking if I can get another one, I'm really on it then. Because I knew the 2 lads that
because
they hadn't drawn brilliant.
And you must have started, I don't know how, because obviously I wasn't on the match, but I heard that Hadrian Whittle was below you, wasn't he? And Hadrian's catching some bream.
Could have done without that, but he was a good, if you're going to have somebody below you to make your fish better, you're going to take somebody like Hadrian.
Absolutely. And then Martin Challenger,
the name Martin Challenger has just been in my head for... this seems like...
Well, Martin's a great mate, isn't he? Obviously fishing on all the qualifiers and fishing on the Y, and he had a brilliant match, didn't he?
He did, and the tail's coming down the bank. People stopping the car, and it's pouring down rain, and I couldn't hear much, but all I could hear was Martin Challenger and £6, £7 bream, 15 and then 17, and 7 skimmers, but they're big skimmers, so... it's like I'm doing the maths in my head and looking at the time.
At the end, I suppose it just became a fact that you were just catching as many as you could and just kept fighting.
I did, So once I'd probably caught 4 or 5 and thought, well, I've got that. I'm probably in the lead now in this Riverfest match with my weight from before, because nobody could have caught as quickly enough to overtake me.
Yeah.
You got 1 or 2 in the ferry field that, Chris was in the ferry field, and then. The other draw wasn't great, so I thought, so actually Claire was actually going home with the family. I said, get yourself off. I might get 3rd, but I'm not going to win. Get yourself off home, get the kids sorted. Don't worry, don't hang around. So I made a phone call after about 6 or 7 bream to Claire, and I said, I was getting regular bites, and I thought, I'm probably in the lead in this match now. And Martin was coming like a train with bigger fish, but I'd got £35 on Martin, £36. So I thought, barring an absolute disaster.
So you called her back again?
So I called her back and I said, don't go anywhere. It's up to you, but don't go anywhere. I said, I've got a chance here. And I'd like to have had the family there, because my little lad, Freddie is 7 now, but he was 4 months old and a couple of days when I won it in 2017. And we got lovely pictures of us with him. We just had another little boy, Harvey. He was 4 months old yesterday. And we're not having any more kids before you say
No. I think it's great, and there were some fantastic photos. But anyway, we'll talk about that, but let's get back to the match. Yeah. So, what was your best hook bait?
Well, it's like any sort of bream fishing. You get your bite on a hook. Whatever you put on first and you get a bite on, you tend to stick with it, don't you? So I was feeding quite a lot of corn through the feeder, and some pellets dusted in my fish meal ground bait, and then loads of casters, much as I could cram in, basically. So I started on corn with 2 dead reds. Mm-hmm. So corn on the hook, 2 dead reds.
What size hook?
I fished a 12, size 12 to 019.
What was that? A wide gape, or I know you like the wide gape.
Yeah,
what sort
so it was an eyed hook on the hair.
Oh, it was an eyed hook, yeah.
Just in case, because I didn't know I was going to catch bream. I thought I'm not going to fish a spade or something in case I could barble, So
And hook length, was it the edge fluorocarbon?
Yeah, the O.
020.
No, the day before it was 025.
Yeah.
This was 019 or 020. I can't remember exactly which
So
one.
you're fishing really positive. You got to in that situation.
100%. Yeah.
You're fishing with a heavy feeder.
Yeah.
What sort of weight feeder?
I got away with it was about 60 grams a second day. So, but I did fish a bit of a bow, and I wasn't leaving it in long. So, as soon as either feeder slightly moved or sort of, I knew it had picked up a bit of weed, I was chucking again. But because I was fishing so short, like 14, 15 meters out.
I think that was a really key decision. And you've got your rod here. You used the 13/8 number 4, didn't you, on the second day?
Yeah.
And I thought it was really neat. What I'm going to actually do, Mike, is I think we'll do a nice blog for our Edge Tackle website and Facebook. But basically, you explained to me that you've got a running feeder and you're using the Edge Tackle oval gripper stops.
Yeah.
But you've actually got quite an intriguing... It's going to be hard to show it on this, but we'll show it in the blog. But basically, you've got 2 gripper stops up the line.
2 gripper stops, yeah.
And what was you thinking with that?
Well, I actually re-tackled up after having like 2 bream or 3 bream because I knew it was the only thing I was doing.
Yeah.
And the amount of weed I was picking up, even chucking regularly, I'd had 1 gripper stop, always have 1 above.
Yeah, it's to create a bolt effect.
To create a bolt effect. So what I did was I put 2 above, but 1 like a couple of 2.5 foot above to catch the main weed.
Yeah.
And then the next one, I didn't really need too much of a bolt effect because of the weight of the feed and the river. But so I put 1 2.5 foot above, and then 1 probably 12 inches above, like here, and then the other one's slightly higher.
Yeah.
So basically, the main weed would get caught on the first one. Anything that come off of that would get caught on the second one.
And you're just extending the time that your
your
feeder and hook bait's not getting hit by too much weed.
Yeah, so my feeder was grabbing what else was coming down, and I even, believe it or not, put 1 on my hook length.
Yeah. So I'm just switching it over because you were actually using an open end feeder, weren't you?
Yeah, an open end feeder.
If I can get it on that.
A bit tricky.
There we are. Yeah, and you've got 3.
So 3 to act like a boom.
To act like a boom, and then you've got a twisted loop below to kick out the hook.
I have, yeah.
And it's nice because it's a safe rig, obviously.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really neat and a really kind of bit of quick thinking, really, in the conditions.
And it's easy just to get caught in the moment.
Yeah.
Because you're desperate to get the feeder back out there, but in the long run, that's probably caught me a few more fish.
Brilliant.
And the one on the hook length, although it wasn't picking much up, it was just enough to stop the hook being masked. And the amount of times I come back and nice visible bait like corn with 2 bright dead reds.
And what sort of hook length were you using?
I didn't fish it too long, although I didn't fish it too short. So I'd say probably about 2.5 foot.
Okay.
So not much. I wanted them to straight in on the fish meal, straight in on the feeder, and I didn't want to have loads of line on the bottom that could get lost. You know what I mean? So it was a really positive way of fishing. It was, I must have chucked 150 times in that match.
No, it's brilliant. And I say,
got through a lot of bait.
It was great how you adapted to the conditions and adapted your rig and fished very positively. So what did you end up with weight-wise?
So I was trying to do the maths. And
approximately
looking at the times, I would say, well, I had 79 pound. 17 bream for 79, yeah.
And Hadrian?
He had 16 for 77 something.
So that was tight.
It was
and
tight.
Then Martin, he's actually won the match, hasn't he?
We knew he would, but he's won the match with 98 pound. I think that was like 16 or 17 bream.
Yeah.
And what he called skimmers. 7 or 8 of them, I think. But how many £3 skimmers, £4? You
don't really catch many skimmers in that situation.
But 98 pounds. But luckily, the day before, lucky for me anyway, that he'd only.
But what a phenomenal achievement! I think it was a great weight. A bit of a shame we didn't quite get £100. Not enough to beat you, obviously, Mike. But well fished. Martin and
100%.
Adrian.
Yeah, lovely chap.
It just, like I said at the beginning, what an exciting match. I know it was very tough for many. That's the nature of river fishing, particularly in the way it's been fishing and how the rivers come up. So anyway, you must have found out quite quickly that you'd won.
It seemed like it'd take forever, but eventually it come down. And normally I won't, I don't believe it until the last person's weighed in. But nobody can hide £100. Nobody can hide that sort of weight.
It's just amazing. It's just an amazing achievement. And when I got here tonight, I think it hasn't really sunk in yet, has it?
No, not really. No, no, not really.
Well, we've got the 2 trophies there.
They're there, yeah.
And you're the first to win the final twice, which is phenomenal on 2 different venues.
Yeah.
And you really are an amazing angler and a great mate. So all I want to say, really, Mike, is well done.
Cheers.
I want to reference your family because I thought that was some fantastic photos, and the fact that your granddad was there as well. Because I know Bob really well, and obviously he comes on a lot of matches.
He does, yeah.
And he was just, he was thrilled, wasn't he?
He's had a few problems, but he's 90 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And he's still talking about going on the Y. And I said, well, you can't sit next to me on A section on the Y.
He'll be there. He'll be there.
Well, he reckons what he said was, well, who said I wanted to sit behind you? He basically said, well, I know all your lads. He said, they won't mind me sitting behind them. If you're on the concrete, he'll be sat behind you, he just wants to be there. And
then there's obviously for Claire and Freddie. And Harvey, I just think it's fantastic. It reminded me a little bit of when Speedy won. Remember when Speedy won at Shrewsbury? And he was just totally emotional, wasn't he, with his wife? So I think that just shows what it means.
It put a lot of time in. I mean, Claire obviously has to spend a lot of time at home. It was hard enough with Freddie on his own, when she was just... But I've always fished. She's never stopped me from fishing. We don't always... it don't always go down very well. And if she says you're fishing the weekend, I always say, first answer is yes. Even if,
And Matt's fishing how it is. You have good days and bad days.
Yeah, but and at this level, if you don't put the time in, and if you don't sit and, if you don't turn yourself out and try hard, and I mean, thanks to you, you didn't get there yourself this year, but what a phenomenal help.
Mate, it's. I think I wanted to really just finish on saying what an amazing competition it is.
It is,
I think it's the 12th year, isn't it? Is it the 12th year?
I think it's the 12th.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it rejuvenated river fishing.
100%.
The competition, obviously, Dave Howell's. He's the main man behind it. And hats off to Dave. Yeah. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. Come up with the concept. People will always say you need to do this, you need to do that. But the way it's evolved, and I think how competitive it's become. When you look now, it's really hard to qualify.
Oh well,
you need a bit of luck.
You haven't got through. One of the best.
There's a lot of anglers that don't get through now every year. And it's a challenge. I think that's great. And what I really love about it is fishing the different qualifiers around the country. So I've got to fish venues that I never fished, perhaps like the Calder, the Bristol Avon. And you're meeting new friends, and it's a great. It really is great.
Well, you can see from the presentation, how genuinely pleased people are for you. So I mean, it's. It's amazing.
It's brilliant.
Absolutely.
So hats off to Dave Howell and the Angling Trust.
100%.
And finally, mate, congratulations again.
Cheers, mate.
2 times winner.
Yeah.
Well done, mate.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.